heart and welcome to this episode of the Drink Less, Live Better podcast. This is the podcast that helps you to see that drinking less doesn't need to be stressful, lonely or boring. I'm your host, Sarah Williamson, and I decided to have a year alcohol-free as a little life experiment and haven't looked back. I'm a best-selling author, expert speaker, corporate workshop facilitator and life coach. I'm here to support you with your alcohol-free or drink less adventures. Follow me on Instagram at Drink Less, Live Better. Find resources on my website, drinklesslivebetter.com, and buy my book, Drink Less, Live Better. It's available in all the places you might buy a book. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Let's get straight to it. Welcome to this episode in which I talk about facts and opinions. Fact. You are listening to a podcast. Hang on a second. Is that even a fact? You've got this podcast playing, but you might not actually be listening, I suppose. Your focus might be elsewhere, or maybe you've turned the volume right down because you're multitasking. I don't know. So we will start with the premise that the fact you are listening to this podcast might not be true. I am noticing more and more how people state their opinions as facts. Maybe this was always the case and I just wasn't noticing, or maybe it is happening more. Either way, I'm spotting it all over the place. If I'm not so keen on someone's opinion, I'm really quick to see it for what it is and either offer my counter opinion or further investigate their view so I can apply some critical thinking. I have a handful of acquaintances on social media who have very different life views to me, and from time to time I think about unfriending them or blocking them. But I don't do that because I don't want to be entirely surrounded by people I agree with or who agree with me. I want to be challenged and I want to consider other people's viewpoints because I really could be wrong about a lot of things. What I don't do is argue. I just can't be bothered. I cannot tell you how little I care about bringing other people round to my point of view. If someone wants to carry on with their way of thinking, that is for them and not for me to live with. I recently had a conversation with someone who got super defensive when I talked about alcohol being a class 1 carcinogen. Now, a class 1 carcinogen is a substance or chemical mixture that has been classified as carcinogenic to humans by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC. This classification is given when there's sufficient evidence that cancer is caused in humans from consumption. Class 1 is the highest risk group. This group also includes asbestos, radiation and tobacco. I'm sure things you agree that aren't great for humans. I suppose I have a slightly elevated set of feelings about this subject, having had breast cancer last year, but I don't think I brought those feelings into the conversation I was having the other day. Anyway, our conversation ended with them saying that they believed I was giving them my opinion about carcinogens. My opinion is based on what the ARC evidence shows, but they weren't interested in that, and that's okay. Last week, I heard someone asking someone else what they thought about a particular subject. I think the person was asking for musings, opinions and ramblings. They were looking for a conversation. And the answer came in the form of, no, that's not true, and a bit of a shutdown. Now, perhaps they just weren't up for the chat. But I hate to say it, the thing they were citing as, no, that's not true, I actually believe to be very much true. And we all could have had a lovely chat around our different opinions, but I could see that wasn't going to happen because there was someone very fixed on what they considered to be a fact. I've got some really solid beliefs and opinions about certain subjects, but you know what? I hold them as lightly as I do the things I'm not so certain of. I am prepared to be wrong. I'm unattached to a feeling of being right about so many different things. I think that's one of the reasons I'm such a fan of shades of grey, or shades of technicolor as I prefer to say. So little in life is black or white, yes or no, one extreme or the other. I was finishing a client session today and I said to them, would you like to put our next appointment in the diary? And they said, oh, I feel really torn over whether 1 week or 2 weeks is better this time. 1 week feels like it's too soon, but this time in 2 weeks feels too far away. So what would you like to do then? I asked. They said, oh, well, I guess I'll probably go for 1 week. And I said, or there's a middle road, isn't there? Would you like 9 days, 10 days, 11 days perhaps? Aha, right, yes. Yes, please, that's great. 10 days would be perfect. I work a super flexible diary, and very few of my clients choose a fixed day and time every week. And this client didn't have a particular day or time that they saw as theirs. They had made a fact of a booking system for 1 week or 2 weeks that simply didn't exist. It's a joy to bring light to a situation like that. You can choose. So choose. Examine your thoughts. Are they facts or are they opinions? What are you backing the facts up with? And be careful. Is that evidence actually someone else's opinion? This week, I was chatting to a colleague I do a volunteer role with. We run a group reading with refugees and asylum seekers. She had used an AI system to produce a learning resource we were going to use. When AI had churned out what she'd asked for, we read it and realised some of it was factually incorrect. So back to the drawing board we went. I can only assume that AI got it wrong because all over the internet people had written their opinions on this subject, but written their opinions in the form of fact. AI won't be able to get its head around critical thinking anytime soon, I don't think. During the pandemic, I was working in a very high-stress environment, face-to-face in a critical role, and I saw and heard a lot of high-tension disagreements in the workplace. I often chose to keep my opinion to myself, and I also regularly made a choice not to have an opinion. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic, said, "You always have the option of having no opinion." Well, that's what the internet would have me believe, and I cannot go back in history to double check with Marcus that he really did say that. So whether he did or not, I still like it, and I'll stand by my right to choose it and to quote it. You always have the option of having no opinion. Thank you for listening in today. Come back again next week. Please subscribe, rate and review the postcode. Review the podcast if you love it, and maybe, just maybe, turn it off if you don't. Check out the show notes for a link to a hidden podcast episode. It will help you with your 5 p.m. cravings and details about my one-to-one life coaching and sober coaching programs. And P.S. I believe in you.